Hola, clase. ¿Cómo has estado? Espero que hayas estado bien. En este video de hoy vamos a aprender un otro uso de subjuntivo en español. In the last video, we learned how to use the subjunctive to express emotion. Today, we are going to learn how to express doubt in Spanish using the subjunctive tense. Whenever we want to express doubt about the activities of others, we will need to use the subjunctive. For example, ella duda que nosotros podamos resolver todos los problemas del mundo. She doubts that we can solve all of the world's problems. The thing about this sentence is that doubt is not certain. So we don't know whether or not we are going to be able to solve all of the world's problems or not. So the focus of this sentence is more on this girl's opinion of us than on our pending actions that haven't happened yet and quite frankly might never happen at all. You'll notice that we use the same sentence structure for expressing doubt that we used for expressing emotion. So we're going to have our first subject plus a verb of doubt in the present tense. Then we'll add our connecting word K. Then we'll have a new subject and an action that they did in this subjunctive. All right, so always be looking for two different subjects in your sentence and the connecting word K. And keep in mind that the first verb will always be in the present tense, and the second verb will always be in the subjunctive tense. All right, so in order to express doubt in Spanish, you need to know some common verbs of doubt. The first one is dudar, which literally means to doubt in Spanish. So you could say yo dudo, okay? I doubt that. No creer is to disbelieve. Remember, creer is to believe. So no creer is to disbelieve. You could say no creo, okay? I don't believe that. No pensar is also to disbelieve. Disbelieve, and it could get translated as to think not as well. Yo pienso, yo no pienso, okay? I don't think that, or I don't believe that. No estar seguro de que, to be uncertain. Right, you can see that these are all verbs that express doubt or uncertainty. So no estar seguro de que is to not be sure that. So I could say no estoy seguro de que. And here are some impersonal expressions that you can use to show doubt or uncertainty about the actions of others. Notice that they are all in the present tense. We conjugate ser to s in all of them. And they all show some doubt or uncertainty. So es dudoso que, it's doubtful that. No es cierto que, it's not true that. I like to think of that as it's not certain that. No es verdad que. So it gets translated again as it's not true that. And if you're saying that it's not true, then you're casting some doubt or uncertainty because you're also not saying what is true in this case. So you're just throwing everything up into the air. No es seguro que. It's not certain that. Quizá, quizás, tal vez all mean maybe. So if I'm saying maybe, it's doubtful of whether or not the thing that I'm talking about, the actions that I'm talking about will actually happen or not. So these are all impersonal expressions that express doubt in Spanish. All right, so let's look at some examples of sentences that express doubt about the actions of others. So the first example, nosotros dudamos que el acusado sea inocente. So notice that we have our first subject there, nosotros. We have our first verb that we conjugate in the present tense. We need our little connecting word que. We have our new subject, right? We change our subject. And then we have our second verb, sea, that we conjugate in the subjunctive tense. All right, so you'll see that that first verb dudamos is in the present tense because that's a fact. We actually do doubt that the accused is innocent. The second verb, ser, is conjugated in the subjunctive tense, sea, because it's not a fact whether or not the accused person is innocent or not. That is still left to be determined. So it's in the subjunctive. The next example there, yo no creo que el reportero escriba un artículo sobre los problemas ambientales. We've got our first subject yo, our verb creo, and then we have the connecting word que. We've got el reportero, and then we've got the second verb escriba, and that is in the subjunctive tense. All right, so I don't believe, right? That's a fact. That's a statement that I'm making in the present tense because right now I'm disbelieving that the reporter writes an article about environmental problems. So whether or not the reporter actually does write the article or not, maybe he said he's going to, but whether he actually does or not is up in the air. We're not sure if it's going to happen, so we use the subjunctive and we write escriba there for escribir. The third one, ellos no piensan que el estudiante lea las instrucciones. We've got ellos and piensan, and we have el estudiante and lea. We've also got our connecting word there, que. And so they don't believe that the student reads the instructions. So they don't believe that. That's a fact. Whether or not the student is reading or is not reading the instructions, we're not certain about. So we use the subjunctive. No es cierto que yo mire Disney Plus todas las noches. You see, we do basically have a subject here. It's it. It is uncertain or it's not a fact. Then we have our other subject here in our verb here. Sorry, this is our subject and our verb, I guess. So I don't know how you underline that, but S is our first subject and first verb. We do have our connecting verb. And then, like I said, yo is our second subject and mire is our second verb that's in the subjunctive. And so we're uncertain whether this action is happening or not. And so we use the subjunctive here for that second verb. It's uncertain whether or not I watch Disney Plus every night, which I can dispel that uncertainty and tell you that I don't watch Disney Plus every night, in case you're wondering. Now, it's really important to remember that we only use the subjunctive tense for our second verb when we are uncertain of the actions of others. But if we are certain of the actions of others, if we're positive that they did do or didn't do something, then we actually just use the present tense. So you need to be really careful because the sentences are going to look very similar, and you're even going to see some of the same verbs showing up, like pensar and creer and dudar, all right? But whether or not there's just one word difference, like a no or something in front of the verb, it can completely change the meaning of the sentence. So let me show you what I mean. In the first example, creo que ellos ayudan mucho en casa. You'll notice that I chose to use the present tense here. And I chose to use the present tense because I'm certain about this. I believe that they help a lot in the house. All right. And I actually believe that. I'm not certain. I'm not uncertain of that at all. It's a fact. It's a statement. I believe that they do help. But if I say, no creo que ellos ayuden mucho en casa, you can see that because I added the word no before creo, I'm telling you now that I'm uncertain. I don't really believe it. I disbelieve that they help a lot in the house. So I use the subjunctive for my second verb. In another example, pensamos que tú eres sobresaliente. So we believe, we think that you are outstanding. That's nice, right? And we have tons of confidence in you because we use the present tense. So we think that this is actually a fact. It's a statement that we believe is true. But if we say no, if we add the word no before pensamos, no pensamos que tú seas sobresaliente, we don't believe that you are outstanding, then we're casting some doubt into this situation. You could actually still be outstanding, and we just have decided not to believe it, right? So we're casting some uncertainty into the picture of whether it's true or not that you're outstanding. So we use the subjunctive tense for seas. Él no duda que tiene 5 clases. So he doesn't doubt that you have 5 classes. He's certain that you do. But notice that when you see that word doubt, duda, you automatically think like, okay, he is doubting it. But notice that there's a no in front of it that negates it. So he doesn't doubt that you have 5 classes. He believes you. He's certain. So you just use the present tense for both of your verbs. But if you say él duda que tengas 5 clases, now he's doubting. He doubts that you have 5 classes. He doesn't believe you. You're kidding. He's not certain that you're telling the truth. So he doubts that you have 5 classes. So we need to use the subjunctive tense for that second verb. So during this chapter, you're going to have to be really careful to make sure that you're reading the sentence and deciding whether or not that second verb should be in the subjunctive or not. Notice, though, that your first verb is always in the present tense. It's the second verb that you've got to decide about. It's really important for me to go ahead and mention that there is also a present perfect subjunctive that you can use to express emotion and doubt in the past. All right, so we've been learning about the present subjunctive. All right, newsflash, there's also a present perfect subjunctive. There's even a past subjunctive, which we won't get into. So sorry if I ruined your day by telling you that there's actually all these different tenses of the subjunctive, but you should have kind of seen that coming. Spanish is like that, right? So we've already learned the present perfect tense, right? So we can say things like yo he nadado en el lago de Yohoa. And that's saying like I have. We're using that word have or has. I have swam in Yohoa Lake. And so we can do that with the subjunctive tense too. It's actually really easy because all we have to do is conjugate the verb haber. Instead of conjugating it in the present tense, like a or as, right? We can conjugate it in the subjunctive tense, which is haya, hayas, haya, hayamos, and hayan. All right. And then that second verb, it's just getting conjugated with the ado or the ido, or if it's an irregular like hacer, it's hecho, or if it's an irregular like ir, it's ido. So we can have sentences like, no creo que tú hayas hecho surf en el Océano Pacífico. So I don't believe that you have surfed in the Pacific Ocean. Wendy espera que Mateo haya comprado los boletos. So Wendy hopes that Matthew has bought the tickets. Es una lástima que nosotros no hayamos visitado a Roma. So it's a shame that we have not visited Rome. So you can see here how the present perfect subjunctive is getting used. It's not really tricky. It's not really too complicated, but it is a little tricky because we are mixing the subjunctive and the present perfect tense that you've already learned. And we're doing that in the same sentence.